Next game we got is TCU Stanford. Looks like TCU is about a 9-point favorite. Opened up at 11, but you got sharp money and big money on one side with TCU. 85% of the money on TCU. We got an Action Network expert taking the points with Stanford. Where are we going with this one, Robert, on Friday night?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's another place where there's been counter public movement. So that, the public has been on TCU most of the time. And you could see that coming in. TCU is the bigger brand name in recent years. Stanford's been a down program. TCU was in the national title game 2 years ago. Sonny Dykes, a legendary coach, the Stanford coach, a well-respected coach in coaching circles, but otherwise a public unknown. So you combine the two. Stanford now in the ACC, which is ridiculous. The Atlantic Coast Conference is on the West Coast, but TCU in the Big 12. So, but the revamped Big 12, which actually gives them a better chance to win the Big 12 now that there's no Texas, now that there's no Oklahoma, though they had won it with those programs in. Stanford, the interesting thing with this is why. So when you see a anti-public line movement, that's usually a sharp movement. In other words, it's somebody the books respect has saying, "Oh, our line is too big in favor of TCU," despite the fact that all the public money and all our tickets are and all our liability is on the TCU side. So and what that is there's some betting circles that really respect the Stanford head coach if he's given time. If you look at last year, when he had an extra week to prepare, he put up huge numbers against Colorado, and he put up huge numbers against somebody else that was actually pretty decent. He's a great offensive schemer if you give him lots of extra time. And that's what he has for this TCU game for week 1 of the year. TCU has a slight talent edge, but it's not like a huge talent edge. They lost those players that they had from 2 years ago. They've replaced them, hit or miss depending on the position on the roster. Should be a solid Big 12 team, but Stanford he's slowly building a better program there at Stanford, and so I would go with the Sharps. Stanford I would really love it if Stanford got back to hitting +10. You get Stanford as the other factor is double-digit underdogs at home with any degree of national TV coverage has been a profitable bet now for like 30 years. And what people have monitored, does that stay up even if they're on like CBS Sports cable? The answer is yes. And it's because if the game is worth putting on the air, chances are the game is two things. Chances are that the game is a little more competitive than the sports books have it as. And that big home underdog tends to really get up for the game. Because it's their one chance to be on TV or, one of their only chances to be on national TV coverage. We'll see if that holds up with the proliferation of like streaming options and things like that. But I think you give this coach enough time. I have great respect for Sonny Dykes, but I think especially if it gets to double digits, that's a little much to ask for TCU. It feels like a trap game for TCU. Traveling across the country, face a Stanford team that they've never faced. With his coaching roster, Stanford given a bunch of time to prepare offensively, schematically for a TCU defense that had all of its. I mean, the last time they were in a game like this last year, 20+ point favorites against Colorado, and an offensive scheme came out and torched them. So it's supposed to be better defensively, but I'll take my lean will be towards Stanford on this one.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Robert, so to start the season last year, obviously they had a bunch of time to prepare. They put up in Hawaii, they put up 37 points, and then after they played Oregon, they had a bye week, and then against Colorado, they put up 46. So it does your theory and what you're saying there with when Dykes has time to prepare seems to hold up, and we might be able to expect that from this upcoming game. Cricket, how do you feel about the game?
I think this Stanford team is going to be much improved. Only had 6 starters come back for this team last year. Well, coming into this season, they have 18 starters returning. This is a team that can't really benefit as much from the transfer portal because the qualifications to get in this university are so tough. So you can't have just anybody go in there. And a lot of the guys, when they have guys get their degree from Stanford, you usually see those guys leave and go to the portal somewhere else. So it's a team that does struggle in kind of the transfer portal era there, but they do have 18 guys coming back. And I expect them to be a much better team. This feels like a tough spot for TCU. I'm not mad at even a little half-unit sprinkle on the money line for Stanford, but I definitely think the 9.5 is far too many. I don't think this line should probably be over a touchdown, given what we saw early on from TCU last year in that Colorado game. they can get in trouble with teams like this here. And like I said, with all the experience coming back for Stanford in this one, it just feels like that line is too high for me right there. And I do like Stanford plus the 9.5, and I'm not even mad at your little half unit sprinkle on the money line in this one.
Yeah. All right. Shout out to AK Millie Goats. What up, buddy? He says North Dakota State is 9-4 against. He meant to say FBS. If Colorado's weakness is the line, North Dakota State can control the pace. If Colorado doesn't get out to a lead, North Dakota State runs the ball. I may look at under and North Dakota State covering. Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's probably a good correlation there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Because I looked at, I bet North Dakota State this about a month ago now, I guess. And I do like that, man. That's a giant killer. Always got to be careful with that team.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
next
Dion
game,
was complaining about it. He's like, "Can we please schedule a Patsy, not North Dakota State?"
Right. Give me the Portland States of the world.
Yeah.
That's who my Cougs get, and that's the one time
Right.
I'll lay 30 points with the Cougs because they always seem to have Portland State's number. Outside of that, I don't trust them. I hate them.